What's up, poker people? YouTube here at TCH Westheimer, Houston. Yeah, we don't actually quit poker. We keep mining and going further, either getting stuck more or coming back out to break even or profiting. So that Wolfgang stream did not actually make us quit poker, of course. We're still grinding, still playing, and here today at TCH Houston, see what we can get into, see if we can win some money, and yeah, let's get straight into it. See you guys inside. So hopping into the session, buying into the 1-2 no limit hold'em for $300, which is the max. In the first hand that we play, we have King 10 offsuit on the button. The hijack makes it $10. Cutoff makes it $30, and unfortunately, in a 3-bet in these stakes, we had to fold this hand even in position. So just showing that you have to be tight somewhat of the time, guys. In this next hand, though, we have King Jack offsuit and the low jack. The $5 straddles on in this 1-2 game. We open for $20, and only the undergun straddler calls. Heads up to a flop, which comes king, 4, deuce, 2 diamonds, and a heart, so we flop top pair. Undergun checks, and we go for a c-bet of $15, to which the undergun calls. Turn is now the king of spades, giving us trips, so when you down bet the flop, you're going to try to get more value on this turn by going up a bit more on your sizing. Undergun checks, we go for $55, and unfortunately, the undergun tank folds pocket sevens, giving us the credit for this one. And then after this hand, we get called for the 1-3 no limit hold'em, so we add on for $700, we're in for $1,000. And in the first hand at this 1-3 no limit hold'em, we look down at Jack 10 offsuit in the +1. Undergun limps, we make it $15, the big blind and undergun call. 3 players to flop, which is pretty favorable for us. It's 10, 10, 4, rainbow, we flop trips. Big blind checks, undergun checks, and we're going to c-bet, of course, for $20, to which the big blind calls and the undergun folds. Heads up to the turn, which is 8 of hearts, bringing backdoor hearts as well as straight draw. Big blind checks, we go for a sizing of $45. Don't want to scare him off too much. We're just continuing to charge pocket pairs and all these different draws that appeared on the turn. And the big blind does, in fact, call. River is the king of hearts, and the big blind checks, we go for a sizing of $100 just to get a bit more value from something that might have floated us, some type of king X hand. We can't be afraid of hearts just because it backdoored. But unfortunately, the big blind does fold in this spot. In our next hand, we're under the gun. We look down at 7-6 of spades. We open for $15. The hijack, cutoff, small blind, and big blind all call. So 5 players to a flop, which comes once again very favorable for us. It's 7, 7, 4 rainbow. Great for us. We flop trips once again. Small blind checks, big blind checks. We go for a sizing of $35, balancing our entire range here with pocket pairs and ace highs, and only the small blind calls. Heads up to the turn, which is the jack of spades, and when the small blind checks again, we're going to size up, disguising this hand, polarizing. We're going to do this with a lot of our ace jacks, our backdoor spades like ace king spades, as well as obviously here with trips and our boats. So we go for $125, to which the small blind does in fact fold. So off to a very strong start, and we now look down at ace queen offsuit in the +1 for this one. We open for $15, the cutoff button, small blind call, and the big blind folds. 4 players to flop, which is 9, 8, 4, 2 clubs and a diamond. We do not have a club in our hand, so small blind checks, we're just going to have to check this one through multi-way. The cutoff checks, and the button bets $20. Small blind calls, and when those 2 players call, we can't float with our overpair here. It might be good against both players, but we're not going to call to find out, so just going to have to make the easy laydown on this one. Under the gun, +1 now with pocket 3s. The undergun straddle is on. We're just going to limp the 6 here in early position. Hijack makes it $35. The small blind calls, and for that price to set mine in these deep stacks, we're going to make the call. 3 players to flop, which is ace, queen, deuce. So unfortunately, we miss a mark by 1. Small blind checks, we go ahead and check it. Hijack bets $30, and the small blind calls. And closing action here, I think we have some really good implied odds still to make the call and hit. If we do, I know it's only a 2-outer to 1 more card, but we have really good implied odds if we get there. We go ahead and make the call. Turn, however, is the jack of hearts. We don't even have a 3 of hearts on our hand, so small blind checks, we go ahead and check, and surprisingly, the hijack checks back. River is now the deuce of spades, also missing us once again. Small blind checks, I check, and the hijack checks, and the hijack has ace jack offsuit for a 2 pair. So if we do get the 3, of course, we get paid. Like I said, implied odds are going to call down with their ace X's a lot of the time. But unfortunately, we don't get there, and we did get some decent showdown value at the end. In this next one, we are in the big blind with king jack offsuit. +2 limps, low jack limps, button limps. We go ahead and pop it up to $25, closing this action. The +2 calls, a low jack folds, and the button calls. So you got rid of 1 player. 3 players to flop now, which comes king, 4, deuce, 2 diamonds, and a heart. We flop top pair. And we go ahead and c-bet for $30. Don't have to go too big here, balancing a majority of our range like usual. And both players fold. So nice one to take down there. In the low jack with pocket jacks in this one, under the gun limps, we make it $20, and only the under the gun limper calls. Heads up to a flop, just comes king, king, 3, 2 diamonds, and a heart. And when the undergun checks, I elect to disguise my hand a bit here, checking back range like ace queen, ace jack, ace 10. That doesn't always c-bet on this paired board. So I'm going to disguise our hand strength here and check back. Turn is now the 10 of diamonds, undergun checks, and I'm going to delayed c-bet here, betting $25. Unfortunately, the undergun folds, but I'm basically targeting something like a 10x or pocket pair hand. And really those types of hands that wouldn't believe me on this turn and just think I might be delayed c-betting an ace high. In undergun shadow for this one, looking down at pocket threes once again. Low jack makes it $20, hijack and button call. And closing action, I'm going to make the call as well, looking to set mine. 4 players to flop, which comes 9, 5, 4 rainbow. Obviously, I'm going to check in flow, first position. Low jack checks, hijack checks, and the button checks as well. So all 4 players coming this turn on a check flop to the deuce of spades. And when I checked it on the flop, I think a lot of 9x's as well as straight draws like 6-7 or 7-8 might take a stab at it. And even ace highs might do something as well. But when it does check through on this blank turn, as blank as it can be, and we have an open ender now, so a lot more equity, I'm going to elect to barrel here, trying to take down all this dead money. So I go for a sizing of $55, a pretty big sizing multi-way. But fortunately for us and with our right reads, all players do in fact make the fold. Downgrading a bit from pocket threes to pocket deuces, the ducks on the button, the undergun straddle is on. Plus 2 limps, low jack limps. Cutoff makes it $51 with about 500 behind. Pretty big sizing, but for that sizing, I think if we hit, we get the rest of the money. So I'm going to make this call, unfortunately, for this huge sizing. The plus 2 calls as well. 3 players to flop now, which comes queen, 6, 6. So unfortunately, missing the mark, of course. Plus 2 checks, low jack bets $100. We go ahead and make the fold. The plus 2 goes all in for $157, and for that price, the low jack does have to make the call. The plus 2 has queen, jack of hearts, and the low jack has 10. So, yeah, unfortunate for the low jack sizing pretty incorrectly there to where they had to call off the rest of the money, being very far behind, looking to hit a set, which they do not do. So, plus 2 making the money there with top pair. Looking down at our favorite hand, king 9 of spades and the low jack, the undergun straddle is on. Plus 1 limps, we make it $30 with our favorite suited hand. The big blind calls, undergun calls, and the plus 1 calls as well. 4 players to flop, which comes ace, king, 6, rainbow. We do have backdoor spades as well as second pair here. So checks to us, and we're going to bet range a lot of our ace X's, king X's. So we go for a sizing of $50. Don't have to go crazy. Big blind calls, and the other 2 players fold. Heads up to the turn now, which is the deuce of diamonds, and when we get called on the flop, we have to be afraid of a lot of ace X's, and we do have showdown value, so when the big blind checks, we're just going to check this one back. River 10 of spades, and like I said, we have showdown value, so when the big blind checks, we just check it back, taking our showdown value, and the big blind has ace 10 offsuit, so no reason to bluff there, and of course, we would have gotten called off. So just take your showdown value, see it for the price that you paid on the flop and pre-flop, and move on. 8-9 offsuit on the button for this one. Undergun opens $15. The hijack calls, I call in position, small blind calls, and the big blind folds. 4 players to flop, which comes queen, 5, deuce, rainbow. Small blind checks, undergun checks, hijack checks, and when check 2 and with myself having position, a lot of queen X's are supposed to barrel the flop. It doesn't have to be the pre-flop aggressor, but a lot of queen X's will fire. So I take this advantage and in position, bet $25. Don't have to go too big, and all players do in fact fold. So nice one to steal there with 9 high. Finished up our session here at TCH Westheimer, in the game for 1,000, out of the game for 1,590. That's a profit of $590. So yeah, we won some PLO pots, bomb pots, so on and so forth, but pretty decent session for the hold'em. Very standard spots, got a few really good bluffs through. Just have to know the table dynamic, who you're playing against, who your customer is, and the way there are definitely live tells. I've been dealing a lot more at TCH Westheimer, given that I was unemployed recently, laid off, and then picked up a job here, shift at TCH. And you can pick up a lot of live tells on certain players, so you just have to be aware for them. There are such things as live tells, of course. You just have to be very observant of them. Other than that, if you made it this far, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.